David thought his marriage was over when Rebecca discovered his affair. But he had no idea infidelity had become a matter of national security, or that his mistress was now the target of a surveillance op hiding a much deeper secret. The black van appeared outside Elena's apartment at 7:23 a.m. David noticed it from her kitchen window as he made coffee, the vehicle's tinted windows reflecting the morning sun like dead eyes. Unmarked, government-issued, parked with the precision of professionals who didn't care about being subtle. Elena was already standing behind him, her face pale. "How long has it been there?" "I just saw it." David's hands trembled as he set down his coffee mug. Yesterday, when Rebecca had confronted him with photos of their affair, he'd thought his biggest problem was saving his marriage. The photos had been so clear, so perfectly timed. Rebecca had been waiting for him with them spread across their kitchen table like evidence in a trial. Now, watching Elena's reaction to that van, he realized something much larger was happening. "You need to leave. Now." "What?" "Elena, it's just a van. Maybe it's maintenance, or—" "It's not maintenance." Her voice carried a sharp edge he'd never heard before. "David, there are things about me you don't know. Things I should have told you weeks ago." Before he could respond, Elena's phone buzzed with an encrypted message. The interface looked nothing like standard messaging apps. As she read it, color drained from her face. "Pack only essentials. We have maybe 10 minutes before they move in." "Move in?" "Elena, you're scaring me. What's going on?" She grabbed a go bag from her bedroom closet. Already prepared, David noticed with growing alarm. How long had she been planning for this moment? "Your wife didn't just discover our affair. She reported it to the Department of Social Stability." The Department of Social Stability. David had heard whispers about it around the water treatment facility where he worked. A new government agency that monitored relationship irregularities as potential indicators of broader social instability. But he'd assumed it was just another layer of bureaucratic overreach, paperwork, and mandatory counseling sessions. So what? "They'll probably want us to attend some marriage counseling program. Community service, maybe a fine—" "David." Elena's voice stopped him cold. "I'm not who you think I am." She moved to a hidden panel behind her bookshelf, her fingers finding catches that David had never noticed. The panel slid away, revealing sophisticated communication equipment and what looked like classified documents bearing government seals and security classifications. David's mind reeled as he tried to process what he was seeing. You work for them." "I work against them." Elena's fingers flew over an encrypted keyboard, sending rapid messages to contacts whose names were just alphanumeric codes. "The affair wasn't planned, David, but it's compromised everything I've been working toward." Through the window, David could see more vehicles arriving. Not just vans now, but black SUVs and what looked like a mobile command unit. The quiet residential street where Elena lived was transforming into a staging area for a major operation. "Elena, I don't understand any of this. You're a graphic designer. You work freelance. You showed me your portfolio." "That's my cover." She paused in her frantic typing to look at him directly. "I've been investigating the Department of Social Stability for 18 months, documenting how they manipulate relationships to control populations." The weight of her words hit him slowly. "Our affair, ... was discovered exactly when they wanted it discovered." Rebecca didn't find those photos by accident, David. They were delivered to her through carefully orchestrated evidence that would force her to file a report. David felt sick. Over the past few months, Rebecca had become increasingly suspicious about his late nights at work, his weekend emergency calls to the facility. He'd attributed it to normal marital stress, but now, why would they want her to report us? Because your marriage to Rebecca wasn't random. She's the daughter of Marcus Webb, the defense contractor who designed half the surveillance infrastructure in this city. Your position at the water treatment facility gives you access to data about infrastructure vulnerabilities, population movement patterns, resource allocation. Elena shouldered her bag and checked her watch. They've been using your relationship to monitor both of you, but they couldn't move against me directly without evidence of wrongdoing. So they engineered a situation where I would be compromised through association with you. The affair was a setup. The affair was real, Elena said quietly, and for a moment her professional mask slipped. My feelings for you are real. That's what made it so effective and so dangerous. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside Elena's apartment. Multiple sets, moving with military precision. David could hear radio chatter, coordination between teams. Elena grabbed his hand. There's a fire escape that leads to the building's basement parking. From there, we can reach the old subway maintenance tunnels. David, the moment Rebecca filed that report, you became a person of interest. They'll interrogate you about our relationship, our conversations, everywhere we've been together. Eventually, they'll conclude that you're either an accomplice or a security risk. The footsteps stopped directly outside Elena's door. David could hear the soft beep of electronic equipment, probably scanners checking for heat signatures or movement. Department of Social Stability, a voice announced through the door. Elena Rodriguez, you are required to report for relationship stability evaluation. Open the door within 30 seconds, or we will enter by force. Elena was already moving toward her bedroom window. The fire escape. Now. They climbed through the window onto a metal grating that overlooked the building's rear courtyard. As they descended, David could hear the apartment door being breached above them, followed by the sound of boots on hardwood floors and furniture being overturned. This is insane, David whispered as they reached the second-floor landing. This feels like something out of a spy movie. This is Tuesday, Elena replied grimly. You just never saw it before because you weren't a target. They reached the basement level, where Eleanor led him through a maze of maintenance corridors that seemed designed for exactly this kind of escape. She moved with the confidence of someone who had planned multiple exit strategies, checking corners and listening for pursuit before advancing. How many other people are involved in this? David asked as they navigated the labyrinthine passages. More than you'd think. Fewer than we need. Elena checked her phone again, monitoring encrypted channels for updates. The surveillance state doesn't work by watching everyone directly. It works by making people watch each other. Marriage violations, neighborhood reports, workplace conflicts, they're all data points in a larger system of social control. They emerged into a subway maintenance tunnel, where Elena activated a small device that she said would jam surveillance equipment in a 50-meter radius. Rebecca really doesn't know what they're using her for, does she? Most people don't. They think they're being good citizens, reporting problems, maintaining social stability. They don't realize they're part of a behavioral modification program designed to eliminate dissent through relationship manipulation. David thought back to the past 6 months. Rebecca had started asking strange questions about his work, showing unusual interest in his security clearances and facility access codes. She'd begun reporting neighbors for minor violations. Their arguments had escalated over trivial matters. Their intimacy had become mechanical, monitored by the smart home sensors they'd installed for energy efficiency. There's something else you need to know about the water treatment facility where you work. The sound of pursuit echoed from the tunnel behind them. Flashlight beams danced across the concrete walls as search teams spread through multiple passages. They're not just monitoring your access to infrastructure data, they're using your security clearance to test something in the water supply itself. David stopped walking. Test what? Chemical behavioral modification compounds, small doses, limited geographic areas, measuring how they affect relationship stability and compliance rates in target populations. The implications hit him like a physical blow. You're saying they're drugging people through the water supply? I'm saying they're refining techniques for population control. Your neighborhood was designated as Test Zone 6 months ago. The unusual number of marriage problems, the increase in domestic disputes, the way people have been turning on each other and reporting violations. It's not coincidence. David thought about his own behavior over the past months, the way his emotions had felt somehow artificial, his reactions to Rebecca's suspicions more intense than they should have been. The affair with Elena had felt urgent, desperate in ways that didn't match his usual personality. Even our affair was influenced by the same compounds that made Rebecca more suspicious, more likely to report violations, more willing to trust authority over family. Elena's voice carried genuine guilt. I fell in love with you while investigating how they were manipulating your brain chemistry. Behind them, the flashlights were getting closer. Voices echoed through the tunnels, coordinated search teams spreading through the underground network. Elena Rodriguez, a voice called, amplified by portable speakers. David Chen. You are surrounded. Surrender now and face reduced consequences for your cooperation. Elena pulled David into a service alcove, pressing against the tunnel wall. There's an exit about 200 meters ahead. It leads to a safe house where others are waiting. Others? Families who discovered what was happening to their communities. Couples who realized their relationship problems weren't natural. People who refused to report their neighbors for fabricated violations. They moved carefully forward, Elena using a handheld device to monitor for surveillance equipment and motion sensors. The tunnel curved ahead, leading toward what looked like an abandoned subway platform from the city's older transit system. David, when we reach the safe house, you'll have to make a choice. Go back to your life with Rebecca, pretend none of this happened, and hope they don't decide you're too much of a security risk. Or help us expose what they're doing to people's relationships, knowing that you can never go back to the life you thought you knew. The platform ahead was lit by emergency lighting, and David could see figures waiting in the shadows. Other people who had stumbled onto the truth about their own manipulated lives, or who had been targeted for elimination through relationship sabotage. What happens to Rebecca if I don't go back? They'll find her another partner within 6 months, someone else to monitor, someone else to use as a surveillance asset. The Department of Social Stability maintains extensive psychological profiles and compatibility algorithms for people in strategic positions. David thought about his wife, Rebecca, who had become increasingly paranoid and controlling over the past year, who had started reporting neighbors for putting trash out on the wrong day or parking slightly over property lines, who had turned their marriage into a surveillance operation without realizing she was following someone else's behavioral script. The memory of their last conversation played in his mind. Rebecca's voice on his phone yesterday, cold and distant. David, I know about the affair. I've reported it to the appropriate authorities. Don't come home until you've been processed through the department. It's for both our safety. He'd assumed she meant emotional safety. Now he understood she meant something else entirely. She really doesn't know that our whole marriage has been managed, does she? Most people don't want to know, Elena said sadly. The alternative is too frightening. It's easier to believe that your emotions, your attractions, your relationship problems are natural, rather than acknowledge that they've been chemically and psychologically engineered. As they stepped onto the platform, David looked back toward the tunnels where pursuit teams were still searching. Somewhere above them, Rebecca was probably being debriefed about her successful report, praised for her civic responsibility in exposing her husband's affair and potential security breach. She had no idea that she was about to be assigned a new husband, one who would be just as carefully selected and monitored as David had been. "They're going to replace me," David said, the full understanding finally hitting him. They replace everyone eventually, when relationships stop serving their purposes, when people become too aware, when their psychological profiles suggest they might be developing resistance to the behavioral modification protocols. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed from multiple tunnel entrances. Their pursuers had found the platform and were converging from 3 different directions. "Elena Rodriguez," the amplified voice called again. "Final warning. Surrender now or face escalated enforcement measures." Elena looked at David, her eyes reflecting the emergency lighting. "Whatever choice you make it now. Once we go through that door, there's no going back to your old life." David thought about Rebecca, about the life he'd thought was his, about the water he'd been treating without knowing its true purpose. He thought about the neighbors who had started reporting each other for increasingly minor violations, the marriages that had begun failing simultaneously across their entire residential district, the way his own emotions had felt like they belonged to someone else. How many people are in the safe house? 43 currently. Families, couples, individuals who discovered they were being manipulated and refused to continue participating in the program. And how many are still out there, not knowing what's being done to them? Elena's expression was grim. In this city alone, approximately 200,000 people in active monitoring relationships. Nationwide, the program covers 12 major metropolitan areas. The pursuit teams were closing in from 3 directions, their flashlights beginning to illuminate the platform. David could see tactical gear, weapons, the serious equipment of people who weren't planning to have a conversation about relationship counseling. "The safe house," David said. "Let's go." Elena smiled, the first genuine expression of relief he'd seen from her since this nightmare began. "Welcome to the resistance, David. I'm sorry it took destroying your marriage to get you here." As they ran toward the exit, David realized that his affair with Elena hadn't been the end of his marriage. It had been the beginning of his awakening to what his marriage had never actually been. They reached a heavy door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Elena entered a complex code on a keypad that required both fingerprint and retinal scanning. The door opened into a surprisingly spacious underground facility. 43 people were working at computer stations, monitoring government communications, documenting evidence of the relationship manipulation program, coordinating with resistance cells in other cities. Families who had escaped before their relationships could be completely destroyed. Couples who had realized their problems weren't natural and had refused to report each other. Individuals whose psychological profiles had marked them as non-compliant and who had fled before being processed through the department's re-education programs. But David barely noticed any of the activity around him, because sitting at a desk in the corner, typing on a laptop while wearing headphones, was Rebecca. She looked up as they entered, removing her headphones. Her expression wasn't surprise or anger. It was relief. "Hello, David," she said quietly, standing up from her workstation. I've been waiting for you to find your way here.
The story ends, but the system continues. This channel survives because of you. Like, subscribe, and share. The next transmission awaits on screen.